Living with myself has been the toughest and most distressing challenge I have ever had. I don't know how it was or how it is for other people, but if I recount it at 47 years old, everything has been a kick in the balls, a real pain in the balls. At 15 years old, due to the impossibility of socializing, my parents took me first to the psychologist and then to the psychiatrist. My father told the psychologist in the initial interview, "It takes more than an hour to bathe, and it wastes a bar of soap." My father must have assumed that something was not right. It was obvious that something was not right. From 15 to 20 years old, I was diagnosed with adolescent depression, OCD obsessive-compulsive disorder, anger disorder, and bipolar disorder, all at different events and with different psychologists or psychiatrists. My psychiatric adventure went from the use of anxiolytics to eventual very relaxing painkillers. At this point, I am overcome with a feeling of disgust and anger at so much human incompetence, especially when it comes to a teenager, or in my case a different child dressed as a teenager. I was born in Villahermosa on September 3, 1971. My mother used to tell me that she was born at 8 months because she had carried a jug of water and had given birth early. I was born by caesarean section in a clinic run by Dr. Mayans, a famous doctor of the time, in the heart of the city, just 150 meters from the Grijalva River, in the bosom of a nuclear family, as the classics of the time would say, referring to provincial families where everyone lived in the same house, uncles, grandparents, cousins, etc. My grandmother's house was a fairly large house with many rooms and several hallways around it, and a large patio in front of the house. We were not the Beverly of Provillo, but we were the Camas of Primero de Mayo. My mommy, as she used to tell my grandmother, had been widowed very young in 1969. She would never remarry, and she paid homage, devotion, and loyalty to that man who had been her husband for many years. Captain Pilot Miguel Angel Camas Zapata, who had died in a tragic accident flying his Cessna C-165 plane in the south of the country, to be exact in TOC, Tabasco. Every day my grandmother talked about my grandfather and told me about new exploits and adventures, like that anecdote about his adventure in the Lacandan jungle, where they had improvised a landing strip to bring him food in exchange for the chicle harvests. She also told me about when my grandfather came home with a retinue of Lacandans in white coats and long and kempt hair. It must have been quite a bizarre experience to see them in the living room of my grandmother's house. She also told me about many exploits and adventures of my grandfather Miguel and his brother Oscar, who was also an aviator pilot. A first cousin of my mother, Uncle Rafa, nicknamed El Volta, also died in a plane accident. As you can see, the planes, the sky, and the satellites have created an unusual attraction for me. You will understand more about this strange relationship later. I always loved my grandfather. He was like a superhero and I missed him, but I never missed him because he was always present, even in my name. My name is Juan Miguel. Miguel for my grandfather and Juan for my father, who, although his name is not Juan, is called Johnny, which is the same thing, so I owe them that ridiculous combination of my name. And yes, I am Asperger. I didn't know it. In fact, I don't know for sure. I am convinced that I am 90% Asperger. But it is not something that I can decide. That is to say, there are specialists in the field today. However, what I am convinced of is that I am 90% a carrier of this autism spectrum syndrome disorder called Asperger. What I am going to tell you was never and will never be easy to experience firsthand, much less in the raw with so many emotional wounds as I experienced it. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to follow and subscribe for more exciting film and TV updates. Until next time, keep exploring the world of cinema.